All right, for some more clarity on this subject, we're joined by Stan Collender, Qorvis, National Director of Financial Communications. Thank you very much for joining us on this topic. You know, we've been talking about this, I want to say almost all year, and now we're down to just a few weeks left to go. Let's just start with a very simple question. Do we or do we not go over the fiscal cliff?
I've been telling clients in September that we're more likely to go over it than not. I'm now telling them, and have been since Election Day, that there's a 60% chance that they don't fix this before January 1. Now, to be sure, I'm not saying that we're going to hit the cliff, go over it, and it's going to stay in effect. Once you have the U.S. equivalent of the peasants storming the castle with pitchforks in January, that is taxpayers angry about the tax increases going into effect and defense contractors angry about the spending cuts, my guess is that there'll be enough pressure on members of Congress to get them to vote for things that they're not going to vote for.
I mean, are you saying there's not enough pressure now? Because the White House the other day, I saw a report asking military contractors to prepare for cuts. You know, obviously some of this is politics, but what you're saying is awful news. You're basically saying that they're going to go over the fiscal cliff, and not until they go over it will they then actually come and fix it.
Exactly, and that's exactly what I'm saying. Keep in mind the fact that the president has to tell contractors to write their congressmen and prepare is trying to put on the additional pressure. You need to understand that the average American whose taxes are about to go up doesn't realize it yet.
They must watch CCTV America and all the other news channels out there because the entire media world is talking about this one topic with respect to taxes.
Well, I'm sorry to have to break this to you, but there are reruns of situation comedies on at the same time you are. So no, it hasn't gotten into the American consciousness yet.
Okay, so what do we do about this? If Congress can't get their act together, the White House can't get both sides to a compromise at this point, companies, as we know, not just in America, by the way, companies around the world are going to hold off on making investments to their infrastructure and capital expenditures. That's going to have a profound effect on the economy if they wait until after December to do this, would it not?
First of all, companies are not going to start to not invest. They've already started that. They're already holding back. Two quick things about this. Yes, the fiscal cliff will have a terrible impact on the U.S. economy if it goes into effect and stays in effect for the whole year. But the truth is, if they fix it relatively quickly by the end of January, the impact on the real economy will be almost negligible, and businesses will start to realize that.
We only have a few minutes left, but I'm going to give you a chance to fix this whole thing for the whole entire world and for America. Obama and the White House, they don't want much cuts to entitlements like Social Security and other benefits. They want to see a tax increase and raise roughly $1.6 trillion. The Republicans have offered $800 billion, so about half of that, and suggested that there might be some cuts to entitlement programs. What does a solution look like?
All right, there are two different pieces here, very quickly. To get through the fiscal cliff, we're talking about not a big deal, not a grand bargain, not a combination of tax increases and spending cuts, but a fig leaf, just enough to do that so that it gives everyone something honorable to take back from and make it look like they've had some sort of political victory.
But it's got to be real. Moody's and S&P, they've already said if there's no deal, they're going to downgrade the U.S. rating if there's not a real plan in place.
Well, no. What they've said is they want to see the way this is dealt with. You've got to understand that actually the fiscal cliff going into effect would be terrible for rating agencies because it would throw the U.S. into a recession. Debt as a percent of GDP would go up, not down. That's exactly what they don't want. But all you're going to do here is a fig leaf to get past this particular point with the promise of tax reform and entitlement reform at some point over the next year or two. In other words, it's a two-step process, but there's not enough time, the politics aren't right to get a big deal right now.
They basically want to go home for the holidays.
Well, they may not do that, but they don't have enough time to get this done.
Okay, help our international viewers understand this, because if I'm watching from China or from Europe, I see this crazy American politics play out on Capitol Hill, and it just makes people probably want to go crazy. Give them something to be positive and optimistic about, that this isn't going to really be a serious problem.
Winston Churchill's famous quote that America can always be counted on to do the right thing after they've exhausted all the other options and tried everything else. That's what's going to happen here. This is what I said in the Financial Times just a week or so ago. That is, they're going to try everything else that's wrong and doesn't work and politically is unacceptable. But at the end of the day, this fiscal cliff will not be allowed to stay in place. The U.S. economy will not be thrown into a recession. It would be so politically unacceptable and economically unviable, you can't do it.
We are going to have you come back.
Promise?
Before the fiscal cliff deadline hits, and we're going to have much more on this. Thank you very much for coming on the show.